As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? Welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show where we take a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and I'm one of the hosts, and with me, he's taking back the night. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to take back the night. Let's take it back together once and for all. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do that. It's been quite a challenge to get this podcast started today, but we certainly will not let it affect our performance, will we, Steven?
I mean, nothing ever affects my performance in any way whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, ever since I started using Nugenics, nothing affects my performance either, Steve. And
you're eugenics? I'm a Blue Chew man. We're angling for sponsors here. What's up, John? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks a lot. I need to pull up the stream myself so I can keep up with the chat.
Yes. Hey, you need to take some eugenics, buddy. Get on the up and up.
Are you saying eugenics? Like,
oops.
Because I'm talking about Nugenics, that horrible, stupid supplement that's I don't know. I've never used it. It's some kind of fake testosterone supplement.
Right, and I just want to say for the record that I've never used eugenics in any way, shape, or form.
Anyway, so Steve, so far on this podcast, in one episode you learned what edging means.
You're still picking that up.
If you guys don't know what edging means, Google it. Just don't Google it from your work computer. It's not safe. And now you've learned, we've learned, I suppose, that you're into eugenics.
It's history, apparently a lot of the millionaires and robber barons who built this great country were actually firm believers in eugenics, which is terrible, horrible, but it is history. But, we've learned about edging. We've learned about eugenics. I want to learn who is Shadowhawk.
Yes. And, this comic book, because I do remember reading it when it came out, it edges the reader in reference to Shadowhawk's true identity for quite a while, from what I remember.
It really does. I don't think they reveal, because the first run of Shadowhawk, as we are about to learn, is it's like a collection of miniseries, because all right, you got your first volume, but it's all considered part of the first volume, I guess, because your first miniseries is just regular Shadowhawk 1 through 4, and then you've got Shadowhawk 2 1 through 4, and that's when they reveal his identity. And then I don't even remember what happens in Shadowhawk 3, but maybe someday we'll find out. But
doesn't he eventually, in the last one, I thought it was revealed that he had HIV, and doesn't he die from AIDS?
Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old comic, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Not only that, Yahel, it's also revealed that he is African American. So
right.
Yeah, Jim Valentino was really hammering in the hot button issues back in the 90s there. And just want you to know, if you're I don't know, some Zoomer or something, that Disney didn't invent diversity. It was going along long before the Black Panther movie came out.
I mean, Steve, this podcast is pretty diverse. You're a white man. I am Puerto Rican, and my mother is half black.
Right.
So,
Yes, of course. And
so we're very diverse.
Married
and
to
you
Filipina, or
yes.
They're trying. that whole Latin X thing they're trying to pass. Because
you would think I would know as a Hispanic man. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know what the deal is.
Well, it's okay if you don't, because I swear it's only a West Coast thing. Well, the deal is that your language, Yahel, has been deemed by white people in California to be misogynistic. So instead of Latino or Latina, it's Latinx. And they've also tried to do the same thing to the Filipino language, or Tagalog. It's Philippinks, not Filipina, not You've never heard of any
Yeah.
of this?
Now, I will. I mean, I've heard Latinx used before, but I will say Latinx actually sounds kind of cool, at least.
It's true, especially if you add a few more X's on the end of there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Hey, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, I would. In fact, I would love to be referred to as Latinx. That sounds like that sounds awesome. Sounds like I'm going to go team up with Wolverine or something.
Latinx and Weapon X. Yeah, this is actually one of the latest announcements coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. Did you know what's going on this weekend?
I do, because a bunch of Star Trek stuff dropped yesterday, and I was quite aroused
Well,
emotionally.
I haven't been aroused by anything that I've heard out of there so far. But yeah, we probably should have done I don't know, San Diego Comic-Con episode, but instead we're here talking about Image Comics once again. And as we said before, Shadowhawk, I would say one of the lesser talked about sort of characters in the Image Comics launch. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I do remember, though, I mean, it being like reasonably popular, at least the
Sure.
first installment. But yeah, I mean, from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was it was like released maybe like a year into Image's life or something like that. Like it was a
Well,
while after.
let's jump into the Obscuritron and get into it. That way I can have my notes up so I can answer some of these questions. Ready?
Sure. Listen to that excitement.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right. Wow, man, the cover of Shadowhawk #1 does not translate to digital very well.
No, it does not.
That looks
No, it
like
does not.
fingerprints and dust. It actually just tears at my heartstrings. But yeah.
Yeah. So for those that have never seen it, obviously in the '90s, comic book gimmick covers were like all the rage:
love
holograms,
'em
die
so
cuts,
much.
embossing. So, anyways, this is this cover in real life. It's silver, like all the silvery stuff you see is like very bright silver, and it's also like embossed, so it's got like a 3D kind of feel to it.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I think it was. It's really the only one of the Image #1s that kicked off with a gimmick cover, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right. There were, from what I remember, some that had variant covers, I think,
Right.
when they launched. But outside of that, yeah,
I just
I don't
remember
remember.
Wildcats #2 had a pretty cool like prism effect going on, or something
Yeah.
or other. But so yeah, let's
And-
get into your memories of. I think you've already sort of talked about it a little bit of Shadowhawk #1. It sounds like you bought it. What happened?
I bought it. I read it. I don't remember exactly. I must have liked it enough to, because I kept reading it, and I at least stuck around until he died. And I feel like there was like, wasn't there like another Shadowhawk, like somebody else takes up the mantle or something?
That's exactly what happens.
But I will say, going back and reading through it, I remembered it a little differently, which we'll discuss as we go through. But
Yeah.
how about you, Steve? What was your torrid history with?
Well, not very torrid, but I remember this is definitely one of the Image #1s that I picked up and read it quite frequently. Thought it was, I don't know, as a 12 or 13-year-old, I thought it was pretty badass at the time.
Real edgy.
But yeah, it was. And and compared to the other sort of Image founding fathers, I would say maybe aside from Todd McFarlane, he at least like tried to sort of give it some social commentary and make it a little bit different. Because, if you look at the team books, your Youngbloods and your Wildcats and Cyberforce, it's all pretty much the X-Men, and it's not
Right.
aside from the art, it doesn't really push the envelope in any particular
Yeah,
direction.
they weren't exactly reinventing the wheel with,
Right.
in terms at least of the archetypes for their characters.
Exactly,
that kind of stuff.
but here you get, which I don't think it would have been too. I guess it was kind of surprising when it was like, oh my gosh, Spawn is a black guy. Or not Spawn, Shadowhawk, but so is Spawn. I mean, so is Night Thrasher and Luke Cage, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it just wasn't what you were expecting. But then when he throws in when he sprinkles in the AIDS on top of it, it's like, whoa! Like nobody saw that coming. I mean, it's. I have to say it's pretty gutsy to kill off your lead character, because usually as we're seeing with sort of like the MCU, when someone else comes along and picks up the mantle, it doesn't really work out. Like everyone goes, "Oh, I miss the old guy. I want the old guy to come back."
Yeah, I want the old fictional guy.
Right. Well, it's true though.
I know it's weird. It's weird, but and I've been like that too with some characters when there's been a replacement for them. I'm like, ooh, it's not the same. I mean. But like, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, with Shadowhawk, I would say, it's probably like, who cares? but we'll get to that. All right, let's.
And I do want to say though, I do remember like him being revealed as because again, you as the reader don't know who is Shadowhawk, right? So. Like if you look at somebody like Spawn or somebody else that you mentioned, the whole time from the very beginning that they're black. And it's kind of interesting that because people were surprised. I remember there was like an article in Wizard about it.
Right.
And it does say a lot about like society in general. That we have this expectation for the hero to be a white guy. And I don't know if that's really so much society or it's just like, well, most superheroes are white guys, Yeah,
I mean, that's how it was for the longest time. Sure, in the 90s they were mixing things up in a good way, and at least creating new characters. Like I'd say the big difference between the diversity, quote unquote, of the 90s and the so-called diversity that's going on now, like in the so-called MCU and whatnot, is that back then they were making new characters left and right. I mean, whether they were good or not, like that's that question remains to be same. Or that question remains to be answered. But nowadays, it's just like, let's take the Captain America uniform and pass it on to, someone else who's, not Caucasian, which, sometimes maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I mean, that's, I guess, up to the reader to decide.
Yeah. I personally, I don't mind it. And again, I may be biased because I'm not a white guy.
Right.
But I don't mind it, because I'd almost rather them do, especially in the MCU, I'd rather them almost like veer from the comics and do something different. Because if there's stories I've already read and seen, I'd rather like see a new take on it.
I definitely understand that. But, okay, so I get the argument is like, they're just giving, so-called minorities, I hate even saying that word, but like, instead of giving them new characters that are like, Puerto Rican or Filipino or whatever, they're just taking the leftovers and sort of recycling it. Like, what would you...
Yeah, there's definitely some of that.
Would you rather have, like, a Puerto Rican Captain America, or would you rather have, like, a completely different character who is Puerto Rican?
Well, can we call him Puerto Rican? I want Puerto Rican Captain America to be his actual name. I can see both sides of it because, like, on the one hand, if it's an original new character, you don't have any of the baggage associated with the other character, and you can hopefully do something new and unique with that character. However, it's hard for new characters in comics to, like, take off. So there is, like, some value to having that name recognition of a Captain America or something like that.
See, now you're thinking like a marketer, and that's the thing with Disney. It's like they / Marvel, like, they want to have their diversity, but they also want to make as much money as possible at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a corporation,
right? But I mean, at the same time, I'm sure there are plenty of creator-owned characters who are new, who are or characters of color. I mean,
but ultimately, no matter which way they do it, or a creator at Disney or DC or whoever does it, they're going to upset somebody.
Sure.
Someone's going to be upset about it.
You can never please all the people all the time.
I don't think that there's like a quote unquote correct way to do it per se either. I I don't know. This is a conversation that we should probably not be having, is what it is.
Hey, I think it's pretty poignant, even though, we're pretty much a comedy / retro podcast. But yeah, I guess we could table it for now and go ahead and jump into Shadowhawk. Otherwise, we're going to be here.
But hey,
all
internet,
day.
look, a civil discussion about this issue on the internet. We did it, Steve.
I personally think we deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. But
Yeah.
All right, so jumping into Shadowhawk, #1 here, and let's see my notes, which are here somewhere. Okay, the name of the story, or this particular issue, is called Nightmare Walking, and it premiered August 1992, and it was great doing the sort of credits for this because it was all pretty much done by Jim Valentino. He's the creator, writer, penciler, and inker of one Shadowhawk. And yeah, I feel like he's sort of not as discussed as much as the other creators. One Rob Liefeld, who I've got a sort of an update of just Rob Liefeld and his craziness on the internet. I don't know. Should I talk about it here, or do you want to hear about it?
Oh, about how Rob Liefeld knows of us?
It doesn't have anything to do with us. It's just like sort of him freaking out about something that happened on. Well, since I'm already talking about it, I might as well just go into detail.
Yeah. Stop edging us, Steve.
All right. So I don't know about you, but if I was as sort of popular and established and had as much money as Rob Liefeld, I really wouldn't care about people talking trash about me on social media. And but this guy, he posted on Twitter. He wanted it to be he meant to be complimentary about one Rob Liefeld, but he worded it wrong to where it sort of came off as an insult. And oh man, Rob was not happy. He tore that guy up, and in the end, made him edit it and put it up, and the guy apologized profusely.
Wow.
And I mean, if you're some dude who is an up and comer, and I'm sure you don't want people damaging your career in any way, but you're Rob freaking Liefeld. People have already talked a whole bunch of trash, and what difference is it gonna make? You're still gonna have your millions, and I just so just
I don't know. He does seem a bit touchy. By the way, Steve, you're very low in volume on the stream compared to me.
Oh, great. All right. Okay. Hopefully, how's that sounding?
I'll tell you when it catches up, sir.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Anyways, that's kind of funny about Rob Liefeld. We can't go a week without talking.
Yeah, well, people are still talking about him in this day and age. And speaking of Rob, did you know that he? I guess he drew that Shadowhawk on the front of #1. He's credited as making the cover. Him and Jim Valentino.
Really?
Yeah. It's
it doesn't look like Rob Liefeld's art.
It doesn't
It doesn't have that. Well, it's hard to tell, right? Because there's not a lot there, right? It's just his helmet,
right?
And
exactly.
it's embossed and stuff. So but yeah, I would not have pegged that as a Rob Liefeld drawing.
Yeah, maybe he just inked it, but he never really does inking. I think it's the other way. I think Rob drew it and then Jim Valentino inked it. But just for a little background on Jim Valentino. Enough about Rob Liefeld. We're never mentioning him again. Okay, so Jim Valentino began his career in the 1970s, basically as an indie guy doing small press and autobiographical comics. And then in the mid-1980s, his book Normal Man appeared as a backup story in, I don't know if you've ever heard of the indie book Cerebus, the Aardvark. It's this weird parody. It started out as a parody of Conan the Barbarian, and then just sort of went on for years and years and years. Anyway, yeah, so he was doing that for a while, and then in the mid-80s, he started working at Marvel Comics, and his most notable work is the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then also working on What If. So, not really a high-profile guy like the other guys who all worked on X-Men and Spider-Man and stuff like that. But, I would say his art is workman-like. It's it's really good, but not really in your.
It's not flashy like the other, typical Image guys. At least the first crop of Image guys.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And yeah, and then he left Marvel in 1992 with all the other Image guys to found Image Comics, and the name of his imprint is Shadowline. So yeah, as I said, he and Rob did the cover. The letterer was Diane Valentino, who is his wife, and obviously published by Image Comics. And here's a pop quiz for you, hotshot. Do you know Shadowhawk's first appearance?
No.
Youngblood #2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is he like on a TV screen or something?
No, he you know how
a newspaper,
you
something
know
like
how
that?
Youngblood is a flip book for some reason? Like on the I think it was on the away team side, instead of having an away team story, it was Shadowhawk. A little couple of pages
Man,
of
I don't
Shadowhawk.
Wow, I don't know why I don't remember that, because I definitely had Youngblood #2, but
I vaguely remember it.
so good I blocked it from memory.
All right, so jumping into the comic book here. All right.
So with the first page, Steve, of when we actually get into the story here, man, so it's a little weird. Jim Valentino, obviously a white guy, and obviously
I think he's. I mean, just to sort of, I think he's actually like Sicilian or something. I mean, have you ever seen him?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have seen it. Well, he's not black.
Right.
I think we could agree on that.
Yeah. Oh,
and
so you're gonna get into the street talk here at the
the
beginning.
street talk. And I am 100% sure he wasn't trying to I don't know, push any kind of weird stereotypes or anything like that. Because obviously, if he's making his hero, a black guy, he's not exactly a guy that has an issue with the black community by any means. So I don't need to put it that way. However, it's a little weird.
So do you want to read it, or should I?
I'll read it.
All right, so let me set the stage here. Okay, it's nighttime in Soho. According to the caption boxes, one of the most dilapidated sections of the city. Take it away. Oh yeah, there's some local hoods hanging out on the stairs.
Yeah.
Am I even allowed to say that? All right,
I don't know,
okay,
Steve.
there's some scary-looking gang members sitting on the stairs. Take it away.
I don't even know if I'd say they're scary looking, because one of them's kind of chubby, like a creep.
Actually, he looks like a fun guy. He looks like a fun guy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. Two of them look kind of scary when they do the close-up panels.
Right.
They look aggressive. The guy with the backwards hat, he's just there to have a good time. But, so again, it's just weird that Jim Valentino, he wrote it yo, Mr. Well, first of all, the first guy with the dread says, "Yo, Holmes,
check it out." Yeah.
Which I think in '92, I was already not. I think people were saying too much anyway. But then he's like, "Yo, Misser, not Mister, Misser, MISSER, homeless man, hold on up there. We wants to talk to you. We wants ta, T-A. We wants to talk to you." So, and then when he says "say maybe," he spells maybe MEBBE. So how is that even say Meb? Wouldn't that be pronounced Meb? But maybe he meant maybe. Say maybe you didn't DIDN. You didn't hear the brother none too good.
Yeah.
So I'm just is this what Jim Valentino thinks people in the the hood or whatever, in low income areas talk I guess. But again, he's not Jim Valentino's definitely not a racist guy or anything like that. It's just it's I'm sure he would have written something just as dumb sounding if he was trying to write white teenagers trying to sound cool. He just doesn't know how cool people talk. Basically.
Right. Well, I mean, I hate the term cringe, but I'm sure at the time nobody even batted an eye. But looking at it here in 2022, it's a little cringy.
It doesn't hold up.
No. So anyway, the guy says, "Say maybe you didn't I can't even hear the brother none too good." And then we see that this derelict that they were harassing, this guy who looks like He's dressed like one of the, when the Ninja Turtles go in disguise, they wear their trench coat and hats.
Yes, yes.
Oh, and before I forget, you know what this street slang reminds me of? Mantis.
What?
Mantis. Remember the gangsters in Mantis?
Honestly, I got Mantis vibes from Shadowhawk in general.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. All right, so we turn the page, and the hat flies off. And lo and behold, wait, is that Wolverine? No, it's not. It's one Shadowhawk. He's not yellow or brown. It's silver with infrared eyes. But again, reading this as a 13-year-old, I didn't think that his look was all that derivative, but it is. I just thought it was kind of cool.
A little bit.
Yeah, he punches the dude in the face, and basically just proceeds to beat up all of the two hoodlums, and then he goes to the fat guy again, who was just there. He's probably just there because he likes the drugs. Yahel, he likes the drugs. He doesn't really like the other guys. He's just there to do drugs with them. And Shadowhawk approaches him, and he's like, "Don't hurt me, man. Please don't hurt me." He couldn't say. Oh yeah, he was so scared he couldn't say "don't" the right way. And then, what do we get? Our hero, Shadowhawk. Wait, is that the same guy? No, it's not.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. Like we don't really see him like do anything to the chubbier guy.
Yeah.
With the backwards hat.
Mm-hmm.
But like then in later panels, it's implied that he broke all their spines.
Yeah, right. So one of the other thugs that he already beat up, he punches him, and again, if you can't see, Shadowhawk has like it's like a silver gauntlet with like spikes at the end of it, basically like a spiked glove. Punches him in the face, blood spatters everywhere. Then he proceeds to break his spine. And like, I guess the thinking behind it is now like they can't go on the street, but then you've got like a lifetime in a wheelchair that and stuck in the system, being paid by taxpayers. So I don't know if this is the right way to dispense street justice.
It's really weird. Like, and all they were trying to do, as far as we know, is maybe rob him.
Right. Well, why would you rob a hobo though? I mean, it was pretty clear that he was, pretending to be a homeless person, as a resident, and
he's literally like baiting people in the streets to find people whose backs he feels should be broken.
Yeah.
What a hero.
Right, indeed. So moving.
Now, is he trying to like talk them out of their life of crime?
Right.
No.
But I mean, Spawn, he doesn't even cripple them. He just rips them up with chains, leaving them in a bloody heap. So
Spawn though, I can almost like be more understanding of it, because at least like he's like possessed with demonic energy and shit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that makes you a little. Maybe it's like taking steroids or something. It makes you angry.
You're
maybe that's out of control.
You're such a Spawn apologist, but
from what I remember, like, Shadowhawk isn't part of the thing. His whole thing is that he's like, he wants to like carry out justice, but isn't he also like mad that he has HIV, and he's also kind of doing this stuff like.
Well, I think
he's angry about that.
Yeah, well, I think the idea is he wants to do as much good, quote unquote good, like before he dies, basically.
I think he wants to just hurt people personally.
It's possible.
And in his mind, he's justifying it because they're criminals, so it's okay if I cripple them.
Right. Well, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe Jeff Altino is racist.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm kidding.
We're kidding. Don't come after us, a la Rob Liefeld on social media, Jim. We're just messing around. So cut to the police show up, and they basically say that now all of the gang members are crippled. Turn the page again, and we get Shadowhawk doing the gargoyle pose, looking at the crime scene. He's it's actually pretty cool. He's got blood spatter all over his silver armor. Although, like looking at the way, like sort of the boot like rests on the thing.
Oh my God! Yes.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah, it's what is going on with the top of his foot?
Yeah.
He needs to get that looked at. He's got like a
And another,
but maybe it's the armor.
right? Another
'cause
thing
he's
is
wearing
that if, like, I understand like armored shin guards, but like, are the boots? Are they also like silver metal? Like, what's going on there?
apparently.
Yeah.
And also like so he's got like metal like on half his legs,
Mm-hmm.
like vertically. Like, that's very weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to protect the tendons in there, because like I guess if you were to get shot on the outside, it would just hit the meat. But I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
spitballing.
I mean, he's
here.
protecting his balls too. Smart move. You don't see that enough in comics.
You got to protect your balls.
I do
This segment sponsored by Eugenics. Wait, did I say it right this time? No, I did it wrong again.
Nugenics is the name of the
Nugenics
supplement.
and
Steve,
Blue
why-
Chew.
Oh my gosh.
This is the wrong comic to be talking about Nugenics.
Anyways, anybody out there who's interested, I'm looking for a new co-host for Obscurity Now.
You wouldn't last a day out there in podcast world without me.
Must not be interested in eugenics.
So yeah, we get it's basically a one-page spread. Shadowhawk is crouched over like Batman or Gargoyle style on the building, and we get the title of the story here, A Nightmare Walking. And also, one thing I did enjoy while he was beating up all those guys are I kind of like the caption boxes. It sort of brings you into the world a little bit more than if they weren't there. I don't know. What do you think about those?
Yeah, I'm fine with them. Especially since we don't know who Shadowhawk is. We're only gonna ever see him, at least for a while, as Shadowhawk.
Right,
You know,
right.
so the only way to find out kind of what he's thinking is either this, like thought bubbles. So, and to kind of learn more about him. So yeah, I'm totally good with that. I think in Nightmare Walking, I guess he thought that sounded cool, but I think a walking nightmare would be better.
Yeah, I agree.
But-
I agree.
But I get it. He's trying to just make it sound a little different.
Sure,
and,
sure.
It's probably easier to trademark Nightmare Walking than a walking nightmare.
I don't think he trademarked that, but anyway. All right, next page. Basically, you get more action shots of Shadowhawk as the captions basically just sort of talk about what he's doing or thinking about. There's a 2-page spread. Let me. It actually came out good for once. He basically jumps, and he does a good job of showing you Shadowhawk's different sort of weapons and skill set. It shows here he jumps and then fires this sort of like grappling harpoon that's on like his wrist-mounted grappling harpoon, and then a couple of cops are talking, and basically the captain reassigns the cop who's been like sort of following Shadowhawk like throughout the city over the months. Sends him he sends him to Harlem to look up this guy who's committing arson, basically, which just also happens to be the name of this guy here. Turn the page, and we see who is basically the main antagonist / villain of the book. This guy in a almost like robot suit called arson. So you think that's a pretty cheesy looking guy there?
He looks like a fucking cheese puff with guns.
I mean, this looks like it's like this is something they would have designed in a cartoon because they knew they were going to make action figures of. I think.
Yeah,
it looks.
It's very toyetic.
Yeah. Ooh, nice word there. So yeah, basically it's just showing this guy Arson with his
Wait a minute, Steve.
What?
Do you think this looks cool? The suit?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
It looks cheesy, like a cheese puff.
It looks like a cheese puff.
Yeah. So
it's
basically, brought to you by Cheetos is Arson, and he's got not one but 2 massive flamethrowers. That man, this guy. Well, obviously he's pretty jacked. He's so big, I don't even know how he could move in that suit. But yeah, he's got 2 massive flamethrowers, and he's like holding them John Woo style, each in one gun or hand.
And by the way, why do you need 2?
Yeah, it's true.
Fire will just spread. You only need 1, and then you can have a free hand.
Right.
Like, why?
And
It's not really going to be twice as fast. The fire will just spread on its own, baby.
right.
That's what it does.
You need to tell Jim Valentino, get him on the horn, tell him how fire works. Someone has to.
Yeah. This is clearly a man who's never been burned alive. We need to
educate him. And a great way to do that is with eugenics. But anyway, so I was actually on board with the writing up until this part.
I thought you were going to say you were on board with eugenics.
No. It's the word of the day, kids. I was on board with the writing up until this point because clearly Arson is monologuing to no one. He's just talking to no one as he torches the building. I mean, I don't know. You could argue maybe he's just that insane, but still, when characters talk to no one, I mean, it's not even thought balloons. It's actual dialogue balloons. It's just pretty lame. It's very old school and hacky. But so he's torching this apartment complex, and this he sees a little dog, and for some reason he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna hurt you, dog. I'm gonna save you." And so you turn the next page, and that's exactly what he does. Meanwhile, the inhabitants of the apartment building are down there, sort of watching as their apartment complex goes up in flames, and they start talking about the DA.
By the way, again, more of this street dialogue.
Right. Well,
you get a brother. Mm-hmm. You get someone that's just a pipe talking. We get the weird spelling of maybe again, MEBBE.
And I would say, this is one of the reasons, I guess, and I don't know, maybe it's a good thing or bad thing, why they purposely hire people of color to write people of color, so they don't get made fun of like we're doing right now.
I mean, again, it's just like I feel like this dialogue was like dated for 1992. Some of it, like when he's like, you got here just in time, my man. Yeah. Like basically is like how I think Jim Valentino wants people to read this.
Right, that's heads. Like blaxploitation movies like from the 70s. That's how they talk then.
Exactly. That's what the dialogue reminds me of. Blaxploitation movies. And maybe that's Jim's exposure to what he thinks like I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyways, it's gonna sound like we're much like with Rob Liefeld. It sounded like we were accusing him of being a terrible artist, even though we weren't. Trying to do that, it just kind of came off that way.
It's all right. Rob never listened to the podcast. It's okay. This guy Hojo, which is a weird name for anyone, I'd say. They're just chatting here, and this guy here, I think this is Shadowhawk here, right? I can't even remember his name, but that's him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The guy that's
talking to Hojo, he says
using the streets.
Right,
window.
He's like, "Look, I used to be a DA," and that's him right there. Spoiler alert. We move
doing nothing about arson.
Yeah, just watching. And now we have, it shows Arson here that he's actually a fireman. I can't remember if it says that he is one or if he just has the fireman uniform so he can escape. And people won't see.
I can't remember either, but and I know no one listening will actually know what we're referring to, Steve, but in the panel here where he says, the perfect disguise for a pyromaniac, when I read that, in my head I read it as Mike Labasca's voice. Like him just going, the perfect disguise.
I could see that. He really needs to start listening since we talk about him so much on here.
I just saw him last night. I just hung out with him, and he was drunk and talking just like that.
Nice. Classic Mike. They have a little debate here. Hojo and Shadowhawk. I really should have gotten his name. But I guess Hojo is kind of sort of like a rip-off artist selling empty VCR boxes to people, and how you could not know that there's not a VCR box in a cardboard box, like I would never know. But hey, that's the kind of crimes that Jim Valentino, I guess, came upon during his research.
How many empty VCR boxes does Hojo even have to make this a viable scam business?
Right, and he just says. He's basically, his thought is, they're, the politicians are just as bad. So if I'm, trying to, make a little extra coin, what's the big deal? And then in the very last panel, there's a TV with Shaft from Youngblood on there. We always enjoy a cameo to show the shared image universe.
Yeah.
So moving on.
By the way, Paul is Shadowhawk's real name.
Thank you.
Paul Johnson.
So now we are at a different part of the city, Washington Heights, and there's like a old lady on the street. It's hard to tell if she's supposed to be homeless or something. And I just noticed this. She basically gets attacked or sort of accosted, this time by a white guy, gang member. And man, I'll be darned if that's not the sort of white supremacist haircut that everyone sort of associates like nowadays.
Yeah, he's definitely like a Proud Boy looking guy.
And he's got, back in the 90s, wow, Jim Valentino was just ahead of his time.
Yeah, sure was.
So the lady is none too happy about these guys dealing drugs. So she actually takes a crack at, Proud Boy guy here. And he goes, "Oh, you're going to die for that, old woman." And but before he can do anything, Shadowhawk leaps into action, and he tells her to run, and proceeds to beat up the gang members yet again. Dude pulls a gun on Shadowhawk, and then we get a one-page spread of the bullets doing nothing against Shadowhawk's awesome armor. Pretty good page, I would say. What do you think of it?
Good page. The dialogue is kind of dumb. The last one where he's like, once again, speaking of his armor, Shadowhawk, I guess, thinks to himself, and once again you recognize the wisdom in choosing to wear it.
Good job, Paul. I'm going to give you an extra pat on the back when you get home.
Yeah, I mean, good thing that they didn't shoot him in the many exposed parts of him, such as
the
most
bicep,
of his legs and arms, his neck. Like, half his face is fully exposed.
Right.
I mean, I get that the chest is the biggest area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like instinctively, I mean, I've never shot a man, but I would.
Oh, you
assume that
haven't?
Instinctively, you no. But you would go for the chest because it's the biggest target to hit, right?
Right.
But, I mean, if they're like covered in this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, true. All right, moving on.
By the way, can we talk about the happy trail on the guy that Shadowhawk is holding, leading to his pubes?
Oh God, what a weird thing to notice.
What a weird thing to include.
Yeah, true. Well, it's just like when Rob Liefeld draws a guy's mouth, and it's like open, and there's a tongue and teeth. Yeah, it's like, I mean,
on each row.
Yeah, I guess they were really trying. Like, look how detailed we can be here at Image Comics. Like at Marvel, they would never allow me to draw this happy trail.
So edgy.
Yeah, indeed. Shadowhawk makes short work of the guy with the gun. Drop kicks him right in the face with a walk. Oh, I really like the the sound effects that they choose in a lot of these. They're just, I don't know, they're fun.
Yeah. And really cool coloring here on this cop in the next.
Oh, I thought that
panel.
too. Yeah, it's almost synthwave back in the 90s almost.
So for those that can't see it, basically what Jim did, he drew the outline of the cop. There's like there's not a lot of details on his face. You can still see where his eyes would be and that kind of stuff, but it's because there's police sirens flashing. He's colored like his skin, the left side of his right side of his skin and hat and stuff is like red, and the other is like blue, and where shadows normally would be like underneath his eyebrows and stuff, around the eye, right? Like it's like the opposite color in red. So anyways, you kind of have to see it to appreciate it.
I mean, if you really wanted something to compare it to, remember the Obama Believe poster?
Okay, kind of like that. Yeah.
Similar.
Red and,
similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, Shadowhawk is surrounded by cops, and the caption boxes say that he can't fight the police. Then we are transported to a newspaper, or I can't remember if it's a paper or a station, and this reporter is saying how she wants to cover basically Shadowhawk and her J. Jonah Jameson, who's never really named. Her chief is basically like, nah, you can't do that, sweet cheeks. The mayor's office says you got to stay away. And of course, she's none too happy about that. He threatens her career, basically, and so she leaves in a huff. And now we are transported yet again to like a sort of penthouse type setting or fancy office. There's a woman in a pantsuit looking out her like beautiful view. Kind of reminds me of that blue-skinned woman as she was looking out on the city in Cyberforce.
Yeah.
And
she's wearing like you said, like a pantsuit, like a business suit. However, also lingerie at the same time. Because her pantsuit, she doesn't have a shirt on or a blouse or anything underneath it, so you just see like her bra is on underneath it.
You know, Yahel, she just wants to know that she's professional yet sexy. You know, she's business, but you know, can go when at any moment.
I wonder what Diane Valentino thought when she was penciling this page.
Oh, she just lettered it. I think, yeah, just lettered it.
Yeah. Sorry, when she was lettering this page. Right, he's a penciler. But yeah, and then she's got like her skirt has like a slit in it to revealing like garter pantyhose that are like, well, I don't know.
Clearly, you're aroused by the page. It's okay. It's okay to be.
Between the happy trail and this, I need to see what's going on in any folder that Jim Valentino has labeled house documents.
Who knew Shadowhawk was such an erotic book? Like, I'm looking at it in a whole different angle now.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's looking out and she says, "Such a beautiful sight, such a perfect world. A city burns, and I collect the indemnity." So basically what's going on here is they're basically revealing that this woman is paying, like Arson actually shows up. They never show him. I guess it's a mystery who Arson is as well. And it's so weird. He shows up, and she's like, why are you here, more or less? And he's like, I just wanted you to know I dropped a bomb off somewhere, even though you didn't ask for it. Bye! It's kind of a weird sort of little encounter, and she's not too happy about it. She thinks to herself, "You shall pay for this indiscretion, Arson." Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, what is he like trying to show her that he's the boss, even though she paid him? Like, what did you take away from this page?
I don't know. I think they just wanted to show that this lady is the one paying him to like have this stuff happen, and kind of clunky execution. It doesn't make any sense for them to be there. I mean, I get that he's probably trying to show us some character development too, that this Arson guy, is a little bit off kilter, and also that she is, a very vindictive, evil person.
Right.
So I guess it succeeds in that regard, but yeah, pretty weird. And by the way, for those that may not know what indemnity means, or like what she means by, and I collect the indemnity. So basically, that's like if you have she's collecting some kind of insurance money,
right?
Basically, because these buildings, catch on fire. So this is a terrible plan, because if only buildings that she owns or has some kind of insurance policy against are like ones getting burned, and she's just collecting all this money from it, isn't this just going to lead the police to her?
You think?
At the very least, the insurance companies would figure out and be like, "Hey, we're going to stop paying."
It was the '90s, Yahel. The police weren't that smart back then.
Well, some would argue that. That's smart now, but
so all right. I mean, I'll say that I like that it sort of adds, an extra layer to the story. It's just such a weird. It's like, hey, I'm going to show up, I'm going to kiss your hand, say I dropped off a bomb somewhere, and leave. It's just could have been handled a little bit differently.
Yeah, and he's still wearing the fireman's uniform.
You're right. I know. It's like I can imagine the assistant's like, "Hello, ma'am. There's a fully garbed fireman here to see you. Did you call the fire department? Like, what's going on here?"
I mean, that's basically what happens. Her assistant says that there's a guy here dressed as a fireman.
Right. It's like, maybe it's like a stripogram or something.
Yeah, maybe that's what Ricardo, her assistant.
There you go.
But
all right.
Anyway, moving on.
Next up, so basically Shadowhawk now has to deal with the cops. And now you get to see what basically is, it's sort of like Shadowhawk's symbol, and it's also his batarang, more or less. He refers to it as like a shuriken, but he throws it at a cop holding a gun, and it disarms him and just magically returns to his hand. luckily the caption box here says metal upon metal. Did you know that if metal strikes other metal, it'll return to wherever it came from? Did you know that?
Yeah, that's how that element works. Yes.
Yeah, all right. So, there's really just continue. So Shadowhawk backflips away from a cop who shoots at him with a rifle. He jumps through a glass window, and the cops send more cops after him, basically. Moving on, like another cop sort of shows up a little late, and basically what they're doing is creating suspicion that this blonde cop here could possibly be Shadowhawk, although it doesn't really make much sense. Like, you'd have to be super fast to get out of the Shadowhawk armor and everything to just show up and be like, Chief, well, what's going on? And so...
they're doing the old Clark Kent showing up out of breath thing right after Superman saves the day kind of thing.
Right. And, so then... the lady from before, she gets another call, and this time it's from the reporter, whose name is Jamie, who we saw earlier, who got kicked out by. And this really is an erotic book. It gets so weird,
right?
So we turned the page, and basically the reporter Jamie, she basically sort of accuses the lady. Let's see, She goes, no, I'm, let's see. She's basically there to question the lady, and basically she just sort of pushes those questions aside and says, how about a neck rub instead? Then she starts massaging her neck.
So our Max, the lady in the lingerie pantsuit,
that's her name.
Seductress, basically. Mm-hmm. And, she just starts massaging her. We get this, like, shot of Jamie almost doing like an O face, and the way that this is, and there's this so weird because like then right underneath that panel is a box that says you don't have to wait very long. Like for what? An orgasm? Like what are we talking about here? And the way this is like set up, it looks like Shadowhawk is watching.
It does. Oh my god! Like okay, so if we dig deep into Jim Valentino's psyche. Like, all right, what he really wanted to make was some, like, erotic comic book about a guy who, like, watches people or girls giving each other neck rubs that might lead to something else. Are we getting that vibe?
I guess so, and, it's hard to see what his right hand is doing. Well, I guess we can see, okay, his right hand is... But,
are you implying that Shadowhawk was masturbating while watching the neck rub?
I'm just saying, Steve, he doesn't seem to be a stamina man because you don't have to wait very long, according to this.
Oh, wow. I'm never going to be able to look at Shadowhawk the same after this podcast. My goodness. Yeah. So, turning the page, basically the book's over, but there is a pretty awesome 2-page spread at the end of Shadowhawk jumping. I guess he's jumping to another building. And it's basically
he's jumping to watch somebody else have sex.
Yeah, right. Shadowhawk, the peeping Tom of New York, is going to beat up people of color and then go watch ladies give each other neck rubs that might lead to something else.
The second issue, I don't know if you remember, but it was called the masturbation walking.
Oh my god, this is gonna make for some pretty awesome TikToks, if I dare say. So yeah, that is the end of the first issue of Shadowhawk, leaving everything on a cliffhanger. You don't know who anyone is, but all you know is that Jim Valentino might be a pervert. And it shows, I guess, Jim Valentino's first drawing of Shadowhawk at the end there.
Yeah.
And then I remember it looks pretty. I actually think Shadowhawk would have worked better as a black and white book.
I do too after seeing this picture. Yeah.
And that's it. So let's run the bumper and figure out what we're gonna do with Shadowhawk here.
That's the question.
All right, so Yahel.
Steve, I do think we should mention that the very last page, you know, I don't know if comic books are still doing letters or whatever, but there's like, anyways, the last page is like just a bunch of text. Who is Shadowhawk? And basically, it's Jim Valentino saying, "Hey, it's gonna be up to you to figure out. Like, there's gonna be clues."
I always thought that was
And
pretty cool, actually.
yeah. And there was like a contest where you could like send in who you thought. It was, although it's pretty funny how he's like, "There's not enough clues in this issue, so do not deluge us with guesses."
I love it because it's basically like, do my work for me. I didn't bother to figure out who Shadowhawk was, so I'm gonna wait for you, the reader, to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was gonna mention that as well. So let's go back to the beginning of the cover. And so, are you ready to render your verdict?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm ready.
Do you, Yahel Velazquez, spokesman for Nugenics, think that Shadowhawk should be remembered for all of human history or be tossed into the dollar bin of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
Oh man, I'm torn. This was not as good as I remember it being. There's not a lot of words. Also, did you notice that? This is like a very quick read. Just fine.
I think most of the books are, and the Image books are for the most part.
Not the next one.
It's true.
A lot of words. Man, I think this is pretty. You know, I'm gonna say yes, just because for a '90s character, he is pretty unique. His backstory is unique. The writing is like kind of cringy here and there. But overall, from what I remember, like there is at least like the dialogue itself I don't remember, but the overall plot and story of trying to figure out who is Shadowhawk was pretty intriguing. And like we said earlier, you know, you've got the twist with him being an HIV infected guy, and he gets killed or dies, blah 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 blah. So, what I say, keep it. What say you?
I pretty much agree with most of what you said there. You're right. The plotting is great. The story is good. Yeah, the dialogue is a little dated, and I think he might be one of the more senior members of the founding
I do remember
Image
him
fathers.
being older looking than the other ones.
Yeah, so maybe that's why the dialogue is the way it is. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I just like, man, after reading all those team books, like this was actually kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
And again, Steve, if you're gonna give Young Blood a pass,
right? Yeah,
keep Young Blood.
I was hoping we were gonna sweep that under the rug and maybe bring it back for the next one. But yeah, you're right. And the writing, it veers from like good and bad. Yeah, like I like the captions, but yeah, dialogue is and then of course like the weird little encounters. But hey, at least it made for a fun episode and all the weird pseudo-erotic stuff going on underneath the surface. So we're saving Shadowhawk.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right, so that is Shadowhawk and another Image Founding Father book in the books, more or less. Only one more book to go. Are you excited to talk about Wetworks?
Oh, I am wet. Just thinking about it, Steve. I need a ShamWow boxer briefs to absorb how wet I am to discuss.
Just thinking about talking about Wetworks makes it so I no longer need Nugenics or Blue Chew.
Oh wow!
I'm
that's
brought to
perfect,
the
Steve.
edge of anticipation, and who knows what else. And
Oh my god!
I'm sorry, Jim. Are we arousing you? And that's our show. So we will see you next Sunday as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.